Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Hill. You can go to the next slide. So just a quick show of hands. How many people currently work on climate issues as part of their job? Oh, damn. That's a lot. That's really cool. Okay. And how many people, second show of hands, how many people are trying to or thinking about working in climate space? Okay. Somehow I feel like people raise their hand twice. So those that raise their hands that are already working in the space, you know that we need all the people that raise their hands that wanted to in the space. And those that are trying to are probably really sick of hearing people like me say that like we need as many people on hands and deck and all these other cliches about we need everyone, because here you are raising your hand and not being called on. And that sucks. And I think all of us that have work in the space now know what that felt like, know that frustration, know how frustrating it is to feel stuck like that. But the reality is we do need everyone, and also we can all empathize with you, so we're here. So, oh, damn, right to the embarrassing photo. So I also know firsthand I was in that same place. I went to school to study renewable energy. I also studied questionable fashion decisions. And specifically, I was interested in alternative fuels work. This is a photo from my thesis. I'm micropipetting, so you know I'm serious. But when I graduated, I did not know one person that worked in renewables or alternative fuels. I had no idea what job skills were required to actually work in the alternative space. I obviously had no experience because I graduated during a massive recession and I was grabbing any internship I could get. And then just to add on to that, I couldn't actually name a company that was doing this work, much less a job title. So that's a lot. And the truth is, all those barriers are still, 15 years later now, evident for climate job seekers. And I know that because I've heard from around 5,000 of them. Connections is always an issue. It's a new space, whether transitioning or just starting out. Not having a network is a very real problem. You can go back. Not being sure about what skills actually map that you already have to these new jobs that you're trying to get. Not having direct experience in the field, obviously, when you're reading these absurd job descriptions about needing 5, 10, 15 years of experience in something that's been around for 5 years maybe. And then actually not really being sure what organizations are out there, what the job title you should be looking for that matches what you want to do. So I'll just share how I got started and how I kind of got through that. Next slide. For me, it was all about people taking time to talk to me about their work. That included like a friend's brother that told me about just the field of energy audits. A super chatty neighbor that told me about this like clean tech startup that moved into their building that they work at. I learned about the first incubator I got into for my own startup from a shoe vendor at a pop-up market. Like really informal conversations. It was not a 5-year plan. It was not about having this super clear pathway. But because of that, it did take kind of the kindness of people's heart to make that space and have those conversations with me, which is why I've always tried to pay that forward throughout my career. You can go to the next slide. So I get a lot of these requests, and I've gotten them throughout my career. They've definitely been increasing, which is awesome to see. And whenever I can, I try to take these calls, just people asking, what do you do for work? What are you up to? And then 2 years ago, I had this idea of, well, what if it wasn't so random? Like, what if these serendipitous, informal conversations that led to some breakthrough weren't so by chance and weren't so passive? So I put up this post on LinkedIn basically saying, hey, I have an open door policy. If anyone wants to talk about this, reach out. I'll share what I know. I'm not a career coach. I can tell you about my own personal experience. And I ended it with this hashtag, OpenDoorClimate. That day, I heard, I think, 400 requests to have conversation. And I took 50 calls over the next 2 weeks. And those calls were all about, tell me about how you got where you are. Tell me about what you do day to day. What skills are most important in your job? Really personal things that I could speak to, and that I could actually try to share with others. But obviously, I'm one perspective, I'm one voice. There's no way I can take 400 calls in that amount of time. That's insane. So I started reaching out to friends, I started reaching out to colleagues, my network, and said, are you open to doing the same kind of policy just to be more accessible for people? And a lot of people said, yep, I'm in, let's do this. And suddenly it just kind of caught on, and more this kind of grassroots movement started of climate professionals making themselves accessible to talk to people that are interested in the space. And then today, there's a directory of over 2,500 climate professionals that have stood up and said, I'm here to talk to you, reach out, let's have a conversation, I'll tell you everything that I can. So this is on the Open Door Climate website. You can search, you can browse, you can do whatever. Obviously, I don't think a hashtag is going to solve this. That's crazy. This is just one resource. For me, this is highlighting a much bigger need, though, for us working in the space to be much more accessible to those wanting to work in the space. Because as many asynchronous, automated, scalable resources and solutions that are out there today, the number one thing that people are asking for usually is just a conversation with a person. And that's what this is trying to get to. And however that shows up, awesome. But I think that's a huge barrier that we need to address. So the other good news is, 15 years later, there's a lot of very good resources out there that do help with a lot of those barriers that I experienced 15 years ago and that a lot of you might be experiencing now. There's climate-specific communities that are really focused on focus area or geography or identity or whatever it is that you are interested in. There are communities ready out there like Creatives for Climate. There's amazing upskilling programs now that are helping fill really specific climate technical skills and non-technical skills that can help people instead of going to a traditional school. There's climate fellowships that are available to help people get that real world kind of depth and experience. And there's also really great job search and career resources out there that can help people just find and filter right away to climate organizations. The other thing I have to mention is getting a climate job title is one way to actually take climate action through your work. Some of the most impactful ways to do that is actually to find ways to green your existing job. Project Drawdown has these amazing action guides, or to actually use your collective voice as an employee to advocate to your company to actually take action beyond whatever that is they're doing. So I'll just leave with kind of these 3 takeaways for those that are trying to enter into the space. One is to absolutely find community. If you're on this journey, it can be super isolating, it can be very lonely. Finding people that are going through the same thing, being able to share failures and learnings and connections is always going to be constant and always going to be valuable throughout your career. The second is to focus on relationships. The whole application spray approach is not good. It's just super frustrating. Really focus your time and attention like it is an investment, and think about that in terms of building relationships, because those can lead to direct jobs maybe, but also just way easier ways to learn things that are not on your radar. And the last I'll say is just to kind of reflect and be curious throughout the whole thing. As I mentioned in the beginning, I was interested in alternative fuels. I've never worked in alternative fuels a day of my life, and that's intentional. It's because of things that I learned along the way, and I said, actually, that seems like an area I could have more impact, or that seems to align more with who I am. And that openness is a really valuable thing to kind of carry with you throughout your career in this. So I'll stop there. I just want to say thank you all for showing up. Thank you for your interest. If you are on this journey, know that people are here to help you, so please reach out, and just thank you all.